Do you ever wonder what happened to Tony Hawk Pro Skater, those video games that had just in many ways had completely grasped the imagination of so many people and just was a game that was extremely fun just to sit down, chill with your friends or by yourself and do a bunch of combos, and you kept on wanting to get better and better at the game. And then a lot of people would end up going outside and would start trying to do the same thing with their own skateboard. I remember that, and that was definitely a time. And a lot of people nowadays won't really be able to appreciate that or be able to experience it because we haven't seen a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game in quite some time. So let's talk about what happened to this series, guys. In an article that was written from Games Radar's Alex Avard, Tony Hawk has parted ways with Activision. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 came out in 2015. But I won't hold it against you if you've successfully blocked the memory out of your mind. It was a lazy, half-remake riddled with bugs and baffling controls, and apparently the final nail in the coffin for the once-beloved skating game franchise from Activision. That's because Hawk himself recently revealed that he's amicably cut ties with Activision after their contract ended in 2015, with current indicators of a renewed working partnership. The professional skateboarder announced the news on Twitter in response to fans repeatedly asking him about Pro Skater remasters, explaining that he'd personally be more than ready and willing to make them if he possessed the skills authority to reboot servers or code games for newer systems. So Tony Hawk did tweet out, he said, to anyone asking me to remaster old games or complaining about THPS servers being down, Activision owns the THPS license, but I am no longer working with them. If I had the skills authority to reboot servers or code games for newer systems on my own, I would be happy to. Now, here's what's interesting. More recently than not, guys, there was a leak that came out stating that Activision is a bunch of games that they're working on, but one of them is a Tony Hawk Pro Skater Remastered Edition, and that's something that would be very interesting. I don't know how that's going to work, especially because Tony Hawk cut ties with Activision cut ties in 2015, so that's something that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on. Sadly, he's not quite as adept at game development as a gnarly BS 180 heel flips, and Activision apparently is interested in helping him out. That's strange, given there's a clear appetite for new skating games amongst a sizable audience. Just look at the whoppingly successful Kickstarter campaign for Session, and in the works indie skateboarding sim that promises to be a spiritual successor to Skate 3, although we're still waiting for Skate 4. There's another game that we're kind of wondering about, like, whatever happened to all these games? I mean, we just talked in the last segment about Rock Band and how Rock Band and Guitar Hero and all these games, they were in the music genre that were so popular, and then all of a sudden those completely died. And then we have like Skate and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, all of those died. Like, it's so strange how things are changing within gaming, but to me, all of these games should be able to coexist in gaming as it is right now. I mean, we look at all the shooters that are still around and shooters that should be back that haven't made their way back. And the same thing with Tony Hawk Pro Skaters. And I mean, these were very popular. So Tony Hawk also tweeted out, to clear up a few things about Tony Hawk Pro Skater, I work closely with Neversoft on our series to provide ideas and authenticity without writing code, and I am forever grateful to Activision for 2 decades of support. My contract with them ended amicably in 2015, and thank you to all the fans. Does this mark the unceremonious end of Tony Hawk video games for good? Well, curiously, Hawk told the website Genchem last year that he was potentially working on something, though the details of which remain under secrecy for now. So, obviously, guys, he's working on stuff, right? This is a guy who is certainly working on something, whether it's Tony Hawk Pro Skater or a different maybe skateboard type game or a completely new game altogether, maybe a movie. Who knows at this point what he's working on? All I know is that Tony Hawk Pro Skater was an extremely entertaining and just chill game to play, whether it was by yourself or with your friends, and something that a lot of us would like talk about. It was a big deal back in the day. Hopefully, we will see a continuation of Tony Hawk Pro Skater in one shape or form. Now, one thing I would like to mention is I'm hoping that Activision doesn't decide to make a ton of them all at once. Now, I don't know what the rights are and how that works, or if they're allowed to continue making games even though Tony Hawk cut ties in 2015. I'm not sure, but all I know is that it sounds like a remaster is coming from Activision for the Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and so that's going to be very interesting to say the least. All in all, though, guys, I think that this is a series that deserves to coexist with other games out there. It deserves its place in gaming, and I think there's a lot of people who would be interested in it. Obviously, it's not, skateboarding was very popular back when I was younger, back in elementary school, but I think that it's something that there's still like a very niche group of people that enjoy it. I think really a lot of people, even if you're not really big into skateboarding, it was just entertaining because I wasn't into skateboarding, but I really loved those games. So I'd love to see a continuation of it. I would love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about this? Do you think we're going to get another Tony Hawk Pro Skater game at some point in the future? And what do you guys think happened to this franchise? Because in my opinion, guys, I think what really happened to Tony Hawk and the Pro Skater franchise was that they just stopped making games in 2015. Maybe there was a slight decline like in revenues and things of that nature where Activision just thought, hey, you know what, it's going to be better for us to move in a different direction, that being like Call of Duty and other games. It's hard to say. But once upon a time, the Tony Hawk series was one of the biggest in video games. If you listen to Metacritic, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater titles are some of the best games of all time, and every one of them was a runaway bestseller. At the beginning of the last decade, just after the release of Pro Skater 2, the franchise was generating $250 million a year, guys. $250 million a year, which is absolutely crazy. Now, last year, the year of Tony Hawk Ride, franchise sales were closer to 100 million. This year, Activision's failing to flog 120 fake skateboards to children, which Activision publicly defends its abysmal sales. So obviously, sales certainly had something to do with this, guys, and I do remember that being an issue. But if you're wondering just how popular Tony Hawk series once was, you only need to look at its ubiquity as a gaming culture touchstone. Everyone who so much as looked at a video game in the late 90s and early 90s had played Pro Skater. We've got some numbers too if you're into that. So the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, released in 1999, sold about 3 million in the US according to Activision's boast at the time. Pro Skater 2 did even better, shipping 1 million in less than a month in the States, and that really was a lot back in 2000. Wedbush Morgan puts the series' total sales at around $1.7 billion globally over the last 11 years. So look, I think, guys, what we can really say about this is that this was a very popular franchise that did have a decline over time, right? It obviously did. And part of that may have been Activision, may have been just, kind of people were kind of getting sick of Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. People wanted to move on to other, genres. But I think this is a series that could come back. At least Skate could certainly come back. But I don't see why Tony Hawk Pro Skater couldn't come back. I mean, look, guys, we play a new Madden game. A lot of people do, at least. A new Madden game every year. A brand new NBA 2K every year. MLB The Show. FIFA. I mean, there's all these games that come out every single year. Why can't skateboarding be in that same category? And so that's something that I'm kind of just thinking about and wondering, why haven't we seen a continuation? I think part of it might have been the sales. Part of it might be also that Tony Hawk and Activision itself, just obviously they cut ties, and who knows what the rights are at this point with those two. But a remaster is in the talks of coming out, has been rumored. If you're a big Tony Hawk Pro Skater fan, I think that you might have something to look forward to potentially. But like I said, guys, I want to know from you guys in the comment section below, what do you guys think happened to the franchise? And would you guys like to see a continuation of Tony Hawk or Skate or games of, in the skateboarding genre? Let me know what you guys think. And for more Tony Hawk Pro Skater videos and content, stay here with Zero TV.